Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Myers Johnson, and I am the Executive Director of Sidewalk Detroit, and I am so excited to welcome you to Now Future. Our first event, we are going to be talking about what is the future that we want to have with some of artists in Detroit that I admire so much. A little bit about Now Future. Now Future is a series of online and offline performances, talks and premieres in which we have invited artists across Detroit to explore the current situation that we're going through as a people, as a community. What's happening in our society, politically, socially, and then what do we want to see come out of these social movements? What is the future that we want to have, and how are artists grappling with the challenges of the realities that we're living in? Of course, you know that we're going through a lot. And so we really want to go deep with artists through this series to explore the future that we want to see. And so today we are going to be joined, as I mentioned, by some of the artists in Detroit that I've admired for so long. This panel is going to be moderated by Mother Cyborg, who is an artist, educator, and mother of the tech zine genre. And she is going to be moderating today and just taking us to all kind of different levels. We'll also be joined by Sacramento Knox, who is an interdisciplinary artist. He produces sound with electronic, indigenous, ghetto tech, Afro-Latino, hip-hop, and soul music, as well as a filmmaker. We'll also be joined by Chace Morris, also known as Mike Wright, an award-winning poet and MC, as well as Sherina Rodriguez Sharp, a writer, ritualist, and performance artist and editor, and finally by Sterling Toles, a sonic and visual artist that emerged from Detroit's hip-hop scene. I can't say enough about the visionary qualities that these artists have and how they've inspired me in my life and our personal practice. So yeah, without further ado, we're gonna, one more plug. This whole thing, Now Future, is produced by Kresge Arts in Detroit. And tonight, they're going to celebrate the 2020 Kresge Artist Fellows and Gilda Award recipients. It's open to the public. Everything happens at 8 p.m. So make sure to line up with their Instagram and Facebook page to join in the celebration. But without further ado, I want to hand it over to Mother Cyborg to take us away into this visionary future.
All right, greetings, Earthlings and internet beings. This is exciting to be here with these artists today. I consider them friends and colleagues, and honored to be just with them all today because we're about to go deep. And these are folks that are down to go deep. So if you're watching out there, grab your notepad because I'm sure someone's about to say something that you'll want to remember. So yeah, let's bring in the crew and share with each other a few things that we've been doing and working on. The current moment's been like so crazy I was just thinking about January today and how different that month was in comparison to July, where we're at. And I know as an artist for myself, adaptability has been like a huge thing in moving from just through this year, and at least quicker than usual. And so I'm curious as to what you all have been up to. So if you can share briefly what you've been doing and like where are you at in this moment with your work? And let's start with Sherina.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Where am I at in my work? And especially since January is like the biggest question in the world. So since 2018, Chace and I have been secretly running a digital underground railroad. It's been a secret project. Most people didn't know that it was us running it. And after January, we decided that keeping the secret was less important. And what was more important was people having access to the Digital Underground Railroad. So it is a journey, a daily journey of rituals, of spiritual technologies, of ancestral technologies, and it's a freedom journey to connect to our higher selves. And we knew something big was going to happen, and it was going to be this.
Yeah.
But we realized that it's important that whoever wants to come in and join have access to any of the conversations and the tools happening in the Digital Underground Railroad to help us get through this revolution and get through COVID and all the layers that are happening right
Nice. Yeah, Chace, why don't you share, since it sounds like you've been a part of that project too? Like, what have you been up to, and what have you been doing on your own and all that?
Definitely a part of the project. I think, like, in continuation to that, we've last year we did a big community ritual called Freedom School. It was a community performance ritual. I think it was in August. It was in August, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we planned on doing it again, and we were like, oh yeah, and it highly involved being together and being communal and like turning this energy together. And then COVID hit, and so now it's been like, oh, like right around the time we were supposed to do it again. So now it's like, okay, how do we digitize like that process in a way that still feels like we're connected? So I've been kind of like exploring all these different forms of like digital performance, what's working, what feels too distant, and trying to figure out ways we can digitize the ritual process in ways we can be connected when we can't be together. And so it's been a lot of that. And I found myself like just personally coming out of like really big writer's block, because like I made some really big revelations. I'm sure like the questions later dive into it, so we'll dive into it deeper. But like just really feeling like in the throes of going from like I can't create anything to like create everything right now.
Yeah. Yeah, the sense of urgency is deep. But yeah, well, Sterling, what you been up to? The internet has your name on its tongue, so I know you recently have had.
I would have no idea that is happening right now. I'm not on social media.
A special digital moment with Sterling Toles. Soak it up. Yeah, what you been up to, Sterling? Tell us about you.
So an album that I've been working on since 2007, which you know about because you're on it, is released today. So it is officially out in the world today. So I'm waking up to emails and text messages and people telling me about album reviews and all types of stuff. And so it's been a culmination of a long process where it just started with me and the guy that was like a baby to me, man. Like we raised him, and he's a 17-year-old kid that just had a beautiful spirit and was going through a whole lot. And I did not know that he was going to become a superstar in his realm of what he does. And we just happened to have an album together. And
what's the name of your album? And where can people find it?
Okay, so the name of the album is Manger on McNichols. It's for people that don't know, that's 6 Mile.
Yeah.
And they can find it on Bandcamp. Just search Sterling Toles, Bodie James. So it's our collaborative project together. And outside of that, just it's funny. It's like you and I'm sure everybody feels has been here, but it's like you finish something and then it's kind of like you return to this state of like amorphous ambiguity of like what's the next tangible form of your creative expression. And I kind of enjoy at this moment meandering in the non-physical ethos of not working on something tangible at this moment, so I'm grabbing all the intangible particles at this moment to reconfigure and reemerge in some kind of way creatively that I care not to know how that's going to happen. So
That sounds wonderful. These intangible particles. So intriguing. Well, Sacramento Knox, speaking of intangible particles and time travel, I always think of you as a time traveler. Doesn't he look like one, folks? He does. He is. He's in 3 different time zones right now.
yeah,
No, anyway.
retro future.
Yeah, but tell us what you've been up to and what you've been, what you're working on, and like where you're at right now in this moment.
Recent project has been in, or that happened in Detroit with Spirit Plate. Got to debut Spirit Plate, partner with Kresge and AXD work. So that was pretty cool. We did like a 3-day festival. Or it was actually 7 days, but 3 days kind of intensely. So the first day was with for the children. So it was like a Halloween installation. We did like a Dia de los Muertos altar, but we projected a visual and someone explaining the altar and the importance of it. So people could bring a community altar in that portion. So that was pretty dope for that first night to kick it off. Then the next day we had a next portion, part of Spirit Play called Honor Songs. And it's basically open mic, but people got to do honor songs, whether it's the original pieces or something they want to play off YouTube, but just songs to honor loved ones that are no longer with us, whether closely or indirectly. It was to honor our community and our people that way. That was pretty cool. People brought violins, their voices, recordings, their raps, the YouTubes, and like all the good stuff. So that was a good night. And then the kind of the pinnacle of the installation was the Spirit Plate installation and performance. So that was, we had food ready, we had stories ready, we had traditional stories and technology there. They had birch bark to give away to folks, the Spirit Plate and the stories, and some of the language and the land of what's happening with that. And then we did the performance, and my performance was like this mixture of like film and music that's happening when I do it. And so it's a combination of that. So got to debut that in its fullest form in Detroit, and then like the super, this always kind of in development or moving around these test pieces, and it was really cool to have it at home. And I debuted it in a spot in the neighborhood. It's at 1211 Trumbull at DHCC. That's some of my beginning works of doing hip hop education and studio work. So it's good to come home back into like the after school hip hop program that we had over there, and to have it be installed like this concert and this creation. So that was good. And from Spirit Plate, I was working with some young apprentices and just getting them attuned to this art world and art life and this art ecosystem that we are building and striving to. So there's a lot of dope things happen. I really like what Sterling said. It's just like we focus and moved on something, you get it and you see it there and it's moved and you enjoy it, and then now it's just time to go there again and then grow and sprout and go up again. So I feel like
seasons, the seasons of art.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at with the seed phase again.
Well, thanks all for sharing some of those things. And I know with each project you just shared, you can probably go really deep into its significance in the moment and in your own lives and healing and all of that. So, I think this will give you a chance to kind of go a little deeper into that. And instead of me calling on folks, I'm just going to let it bubble up as a conversation. But, it's been such an intense, dense political climate with coronavirus, just really showing us the power of the internet and its ability to hold economy together, but also the power of mutual aid, and how the lack of leadership and government has sort of forced people who don't think about mutual aid to then become a part of it, leading us to then this uprising against racist policing, which is, all of this is sort of the perfect storm for this chaotic yet organized moment, which is what I feel like is totally happening. It's like we've all been working towards this in some way, which is a paradigm shift. And the paradigm shift is now before us. It's not something that happened overnight. Like everyone on this, TV screen right now knows that this is slow change that's been happening with every little seed that we've planted along the way. So, it's it's an amazing moment as much as it is a scary moment. And I'm curious what big questions that your work has been asking of this moment, and thinking about what the significance of art is, considering this, like, economic downturn about to happen. Like, what is the power of these questions that you're asking?
Anybody go?
Don't make me call on you.
I think for me, I guess I was kind of surprised at how people were surprised at this moment. Like, this has just felt like my entire life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, but I think it's just more visible now. But I'm a firm believer that, like, the world that we're viewing is just a replica of our relationships to each other. And, like, we're always trying to change the world, but trying to change the world to me is like trying to change the reflection that the mirror is showing you versus changing yourself, and then you see the reflection will then follow the guide of how you've transformed yourself. So the world as a reflection is only going to follow the guide of the image that we're giving it in terms of our collective relationship to one another. And I think that a lot of times we don't think about the collective relationship to one another. We just a lot of times try to shift the structures to make what we feel we're in more inhabitable, but we're not necessarily always changing the relationship within ourselves, because that's what we inhabit primarily, And I think in this moment for me, I've been thinking a lot about just, I guess I would call it, for lack of a better term, spirit agency. I think a lot of times we attach what we feel to what's happening outside of us. Not always recognizing that energy has the ability to give life to something tangible, but something tangible does not have the ability to give life to energy. And so I think sometimes we allow the social landscape to inhabit our internal landscapes in a way in which we have no real estate left to actually build the kind of collective relationship to inhabit that we would love to. So a lot of where I'm at now is like thinking about, regardless of what's happening around us, how are we galvanizing what's happening inside of us into something that the world eventually will have to just contort to the reality of what we were able to create collectively.
Nice. Yeah. See, out there, I told you were going to need your pens and pencils to take notes. But that's beautiful, Sterling. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm wondering if anybody, like, how Sacramento, Chace, and Sherina, like, if those are in relation to some of the things that you've been asking.
I think I have been orbiting a similar thought, Sterling. Mine has come from this direction since before the pandemic, but certainly having a lot of time during the pandemic, I have been sitting with myself and in my work exploring all the places where I've been taught that I don't exist. Like, I don't exist in this system, in this relationship, you know, with these people. I have been taught that I cannot exist for this system to work. Or the places where I have insisted that I exist, and that means that you don't exist. So I exist, but you don't. And balancing how, and I think the world is coming to a place where we're balancing the idea of like, I exist, you exist at the same damn time. Like, how does that work? And how do we begin pivoting and learning how to see each other? So like Sterling's mirror, like my side of the mirror and your side of the mirror have to coexist. It has to. And how do we see that in each other? So I've been working on and questioning in my work the idea of like, we exist.
I say the questions that are coming up is like, what am I doing? What am I doing at this moment? And it is like a mirror reflection. And just looking at like, am I okay? Has everything been good? It was a rough winter for me, so I feel like coming over, achieving some like mental health achievements or quality time making with being healthy. I think from learning that stuff, those new challenges, that one person grows. Like, I feel like what's happening right now is like these questions for like a lot of questions for myself. It's like, that's what it's asking. Like, when I'm making my art or doing these things, I'm always asking myself, what kind of utility is this for humanity right now? Like, in this moment, what does it serve? You know, is it a journal entry? Is it a documentation? Is it a piece of music? So I think like really asking myself how I could be like not necessarily important, because everyone's important, but how do I be accountable to my gifts, my time and my space, and my relationships, like being accountable and being genuine and being beautiful. I say this a lot, just creating beauty out of disaster. So in disastrous moments, is like, what is the beauty we seek? And you know, I have some good friends that said, if you seek beauty, you'll find it. So I stay seeking that beauty, and like so I kind of see. So in these moments is like really turn to our medicines and our original ways, and what that means is like Anishinaabe culture and technology and thinking, like the land, because the land is hurting, and so it's like doing a lot of that Anishinaabe work and sharing it. And it's like a project that's happening right now called the Wawi-Atunong Resurgence. So it's a native resurgence movement happening in Detroit. And Wawi-Atunong is the original name of this place before it was colonized into Detroit. So it's like, when you're looking at the reflections, is like, what is this place truly, and how is it growing and forming? And those are the questions I ask myself. It's like, how am I bringing all this spirit energy and technology that's coming to me and gifting to me, and sharing it in the most beautiful ways and most comprehensive ways, and respectful and important ways too. So those are the questions I ask: is how's my gifts utility for people at this moment, and in which ways can I help gift, like create this culture of gift and building, and ultimately giving to the land, like taking care of it, because that's going to take care of all our food and our ways we live. So it's like, how can we all come together and give to the land? That's what questions I'm thinking.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Knox. Chace, I want to give you a chance to jump in on this, because I know you got some big questions too. And then we can jump into the next one, and we'll open it up to the audience after that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, it was a big question to begin with, so I was trying to like really sit with it and answer it as authentically as possible. I think a couple of questions that's kind of been coming up to me, along with everybody else, that I think has been dead on. One has been staying in this energy. Like, what are ways, starting with myself and then thinking outwardly, but like, how do you sustain energy of like we're radicalized right now, and this place is being radicalized that probably has been really nervous or afraid or whatever to step out on that limb now, and what maybe hasn't happened before. How do you take that energy, like as an artist, and keep fueling that energy, especially in places, not only for the new, like the people newly there, and like how can I help, how can I line up, but also the people who have been doing it for long periods of time and have been movement working and been organizing and maybe tired. How does the artist kind of like re-energize that? How do we refuel that and keep reaffirming not only like the responses to a lot of the the effery going on, but also like I'm a cousin. I'm like, it's the east side of me, I cuss, so I'm like editing. And so like also you know what I mean, like how do we sustain energy? Also like the artist as the translator, we like to talk about like translating really big concepts into ways that the person next door who maybe had never been to a performance, maybe never showed up to a grassroots organization meeting, would understand it and be like, oh, I understand why this is important. Let me find my way to line up in that. Because I feel like moving forward, that's going to be important with like president and a lot of people trying to use the outsider agitator thing and be like, oh, they're separate. We're all different. And these are bad people. And these are good people. Nah, we're all the same people. And so you're not going to be able to drive that way. So how do you get those people kind of translated into stuff? And then the other thing I've been thinking about with digitizing everything that we might have to kind of go like wholly digital if this isn't handled is like how in the art, especially in the wake of some pretty big shakeups in the art scene, how do we as artists, with now the internet being the playground as well as the tangible, become institutions, our own institutions? I don't like the word institution, so I've been looking for another word. But like in places where we may not have been sacredized or properly valued in these places, how do we be able to do that in our own homes? Like we have a window, everybody has a window into their own space to be able to churn their energy, to be able to like create their own experience. And that's kind of turned a lot of this stuff on the ear where it's like, you didn't want to honor those artists coming in there. You didn't want to pay those artists. You didn't want to value their opinions. The landscape is wide open and it's caused this really weird portal. So I'm really thinking about ways that technology and our craft, and I think we all delve in ritual in that way in our own lives, can kind of be like, this is now the institution and we get to apply some of the things we've been trying to ask other institutions to apply. Being creative and being open-minded. So
it's interesting when you were saying that. It made me think of like go back to the 2000s and the 90s, and when Napster like showed us the potential of the internet and like really tearing apart the music industry. And then SoundCloud came out and then really tore it apart. And then we got Chance the Rapper, and then we got Soulja Boy, and I know like probably everyone on this panel has some sort of self-release thing on one of those platforms. But you're right that it's like when everybody is digital in this moment, it opens up the opportunity for new things to emerge and for things to be summoned. And I like how you all sort of were saying that there's like these portals it's like the artist is the portal, and then there are these parallel universes happening continuously. And I think the metaphor of the mirror is really interesting that everyone sort of brought up, and that like in a sense like in order to change that reflection, it requires you to change yourself, but you are then also a part of an environment. So it's an interesting cycle that I think folks are bringing up. And so, all this goes to show that the moment is ripe for a new future. And I'm curious what your future looks like in your desired mind, and what your ultimate future, if if things go in your way, what does that future look like? And how is your art summoning that right now?
Right.
Can I tap on you, Knox? Because I know you have this like ancient future vibe, and we talk a lot about the future from the past, and being analog and digital together is like the same. And so I'm curious, like, how you're projecting for the future in this moment and summoning that with your work.
Yeah, I really look towards inspiration towards like Anishinaabe ceremony, like seeing those work in those traditional ways, but then looking at all our modern day tools and then like kind of mixing those together, because like when we refer to, I guess, native culture, sometimes we refer to it as a tradition or traditional, and I'd be like, nah, it's happening right the fuck now. And it's like, and the way it's working is like with those tools, you know, and like I'm pretty sure that in the future they'll say how, you know, these tools and stuff were used, and these binary codes and these bits and bytes, all these bits of information were used to organize sound and images and education in a new world, to visualize things. So it's like looking at those pieces, like a blend of this air, I guess, to call, you know, the frequencies. But just to what I mean by the ancient future is like to go to where it's always been, like just to think of that and how that works. Like, you know, it's always been this way, it is this way, and it will be this way. So what that implies is a future without colonialism and oppression, and ways that things were thriving before we go through this small disease, the sickness moment for us, you know. And as we carry the spirit and the soul forward too, you know, it's like it's work that we all did through generations to get to the future. So it's like really getting to back what is known and where everyone's at, and that's what I'm applying by that. And it's actually a spirit too. In Anishinaabe culture, it's called Baskabian, and that's also, people might know, this is called decolonization.
There's a spirit called decolonization?
No, it's Baskabian. It means the time travel. It goes. It's like it implies what the way we get to forward is what we know from the past and how we're living now, and that's we'll get to the future. There's also a thing called looking out for the 7 generations, and that's part of that spirit energy too.
That's beautiful. No wonder I always see you as a time traveler. It's just like I know you figured it out, man. But we're gonna tell the world right now. No, I'm just joking, internet. But okay, go ahead. What else? What else you guys got? Chace and Sharice, what is your future and how are you summoning it with your art?
We in Tetraland, in Digital Underground Railroad Land, we think about this and talk about this all the time. So we're looking at the future as freedom, and looking at freedom as a life that you don't have to escape. And what does that mean? And we're calling forth freedom from a place where we are rejecting the definitions of freedom that we have been given, especially like we can't let anyone who's ever oppressed us define what freedom means for us. And so we are looking at tapping back into, like, you know, piggybacking on what Knox is saying, tapping back into our own soul, our own ancestral knowledge, and that definition of freedom coming from our higher self. So like my higher self knows what freedom is. Trump doesn't know what freedom is, but my soul knows what freedom is. And the journey is getting more and more in touch with myself and defining that, like having the courage to keep defining that for myself and not letting society define it and not letting these systems define it, but letting myself keep asking, like, all right, you know, take a step. And is this a life I need to escape? Hell yeah. Okay. So here's the next step, and the next step, and the next step until I get to the future. Freedom.
Yeah. To add on to that, how to add on to that? I think, like, if I'm thinking about it on the fly, like, I'm believing a lot in irresistibility right now. Mm-hmm. Like the Tony K quote, like cultural workers are making the work irresistible. So I think part of that is like, I don't know, man. I've been like into the irreverent. I've been into things that kind of bring certain amounts of joy and certain amounts of really visceral movement. How does that become part of like the ritual building that we're doing? How does it become part of movement work? So I think when we were kind of like talking before together, like joy is a big part of that. But like expounding upon that, I realized that really weird thing for me. So like when this all started, like the pandemic, before we got in the very first beginning of it, I had like this massive writer's block, and I was trying to like respond to the times and the artist and what is my role and trying to write pointed thing. I couldn't write anything. It was a mess, and I was sweating, I was angry. When I realized that I took like, it was like a month of this. I free wrote like this thing, and it ended up being some form of a revenge poem, to be honest with you. And I realized it was anger in my way before I could even get to joy and stuff. And I realized how many times I talked about joy in a way where I like, okay, this morning I'm just gonna choose joy. I'm just gonna click the thing on joy and show up to it. Where it's not always that case. And sometimes like joy is arrived at through coming through these other emotions and giving them a place to breathe. And so like, how does my heart summon it? How does art summon it in the future that we're bringing? I think is like the full range of emotions kind of being able to be reckoned with, not only in self, but like with squad, with everybody. And like, what does it look like to reach through happiness and have a place to kind of go let out that rage in the art? What does it look like to let out that grief in really creative ways to get to the joy? What does it feel like to be able to be numb and be apathetic and then get through that to the joy? So like, I just realized I've been like talking about joy in ways like I just wake up and just drive to it. It's like right down the street. Sometimes it's not. It's a destination that's like you can't get to unless you do these things, these landmarks. And so, yeah. And so the art I think that we're trying to work and I'm working through is how to channel that and how to be like sometimes messy in that, not always clean. And how to be like sometimes irreverent in that, how to be dangerous in that, and then kind of like giving yourself permission in ways so we can kind of going back to the mirror thing, of being like, oh, I don't have to be a certain time to get into this. Okay, cool. And I think that's the way to sustain it. So I think it's all connected. Yeah. If that makes any sense. I'm a rambler, so like you gotta just.
You're not a writer.
I can't. I'm a rambler, man. I go crazy. This is like me. I usually throw in a bunch of like Marvel references and movie. So this is light me.
This is chill.
Yeah, this is chill.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I love it. But no, I think it's important. And you know, when you were talking, it made me think about the strategy of anger that the government has been using to oppress people,
right? Because
it is within joy and within happiness that you're able to sort of see the beauty. It's really hard to see beauty in the midst of anger. And so one thing that I know, like, that has emerged for me this summer is that happiness is a practice. It's like really something you do have to practice, and it's actually quite radical to be thinking about joy and happiness and self-care in a time of chaos. So I'm actually really, really glad that these things have come up from all of y'all. And so Sterling, I'm going to leave a question with you, and then we have one question from the audience that I'll throw out to everybody. But for you, Sterling, can you tell me what your future looks like, and how are you summing in it at this moment with your work?
To be real, like I don't have a damn idea.
Great, that's good. That's refreshing.
Like, you know, I think like a while back in my life, I kind of gravitated to this notion of like living in the state of post-fruition, right? Like I'm not trying to get somewhere or arrive at a particular place necessarily, but the destination is a step inward versus 1,000 steps outward. And I think sometimes, and I've experienced this creatively, and I feel like it's kind of connected to what Chace is talking about too. But like, I think sometimes when we try to get to a particular place in the world, our mind then creates the map on how to get there. But our mind is creating the map based on our knowledge. And our knowledge is based off of what we've known in the past, but we're trying to get to a new place. Okay. So for me, the greatest roadmap to territory that feels like full inspiration and freedom is the journey into the unknown. And to me, it's that point when you're dancing and you forget you're dancing. And you forget that you're listening to a song. And you are completely 100% in this moment. And I think when we're completely in that moment, we've transcended the limitations that come with the compartmentalizing, where part of it is in the past, part of it is in the future, part of it is here, part of it is there. Like, to me, the portal opens when you say, I'm just going to allow all of me to be in this moment. Because it's like I can control the objects that I think are going to meet me in the future. But if I completely put everything into where I'm at in this moment, I'm just going to really, at some point, just encounter what's been happening inside, you know? And, you know, so for me, I think that sometimes we search for water where our well isn't. And I think
I'm
that
laughing because I'm taking notes too. Everyone's taking notes.
and I think too, like, I feel an ocean of fluidity at the point in which I begin disrobing what I've been made to believe I am in the context of the world. You know, because I think there's a lot of, we can be against some things consciously, morally, ethically, and be completely submissive to it and compliant to it emotionally. And I think a lot of our anger and hurt and frustration that comes as a result of our scab being ripped off every time, you know, certain things happen, that exhaustive energy is converted to me into fuel for the thing that perpetually puts us in the same place. And so for me, it's like understanding the functionality of joy in this moment. Because I think a lot of times, like, I always say this, and I'm a broken record, people around me, but it boggles me. Like, the dictionary definition of depression is the lowering of the spirit. That's what it means, you know. And I think a lot of times we are systematically depressed to put our energy within the reach of things that now can reach it and exploit that energy, right? So for me, like, so much of it is taking my spirit out the line of fire in the now, you know? And to me, like, keeping my spirit out of the line of fire, what I see is happening And it's not even like a refutation of emotion. It's like the ability to feel everything. And to me, it's a deeper understanding that there's something greater at play, because we've been made to believe that we don't have access to the way in which we would love to feel unless we possess a certain position or a certain resource or a certain whatever. But that's not true. But as long as we believe it's true, then our energy can be used for other purposes. So I think like one of the most radical revolutionary things that we can do is just allow ourselves to embrace the potential that we have to feel the complete universe of feeling within ourselves. We always have access to it, you know. And I think once we understand that nothing on the outside can be in the way of what I choose to feel on the inside, or what I have the ability to feel on the inside, then you can't use what I feel against me, you know, anymore.
Yeah, I love that. It's like the more we understand the emotions that occupy this planet, the more you can understand your own within inside of you. I think that's really beautiful. Thank you all so much for just getting so deep with all of this. Like, I'm really inspired. I'm really glad I'm in my studio today and that there's the rest of the day because I'm about to make something. But we have one question from the audience. Yvette Rock from the internet wants to know, what has been your biggest loss / challenge, and what has been your biggest gain / victory? Yeah, so I'm gonna just throw that out there to y'all. Yvette wants to know.
What's the question again?
What has been your biggest loss and challenge, and what has been your biggest gain or victory? And are they the same? Ooh. No, no, sorry, not to complicate it even more, but.
Okay. I'll kick it off real quick, and I might just kill it back around. But I think one of just off the top of my head, one of the biggest losses, and then now I think the biggest gains that do coincide with each other, has been my relationship with energy, my relationship with my internal energy. Like everything, I don't know if anybody else is experiencing this, but like everything in this time has felt like it's taken maybe 3 times the energy sometimes to do. And it's like I'm trying to operate on the same schedule pre-COVID, like post-COVID that I did pre-COVID. And that's just been like, and I've been like forcing myself, judging myself. And it's like, bro, you gotta chill out, man. Like there are multiple crises happening at the same time, and it's okay if like your mind and your body is processing that a little bit differently. And so like the biggest was definitely that, because I found myself like setting schedules and being like, we gotta be on it, it's urgent. And then you look up and you like wake up, scroll your phone 3 times, look up at 6 p.m. and like the day is gone, you tired, you got like 1.5 things done, now you're trying to figure out what's going on. And like I realized in just adjusting my grace has been like the biggest gain related to that energy, is being like listen to the intuition of your body. Some days it's gonna be a little bit heavier than the other day. It's okay. And like productivity, like what is that? Like in the midst of this. So like just listen to your body, kind of like take a step back. That's kind of the important thing. And yeah, off the top, that was the biggest loss, and now it's the biggest gain because I'm like in a whole different place with it. Like shame is gone. Some days it's just reachable. Some days it's like I'm in there and things are flowing, and it's really like I believe in it because we do a lot of this ritual stuff. But like if you didn't believe in that stream of energy that you can kind of tap into and stuff, like I feel that access that's just a little bit different, and listening to that as opposed to listening to the capitalistic side that said like if you sit down too long, you worthless. Like you're just not doing enough. has changed the energy inside of me, and I'm like way more refreshed, way more balanced than I was like pre-COVID. So like that's been a big loss and then a gain, kind of hand in hand, as you said. So
But usually in the world of tarot, hopes and fears are the same.
Word.
That shit's deep, right? Like it always gets me. I'm like, wow. And then you notice these questions when they come up, they always balance it out, like victory and challenge. So. Knox, do you mind taking this question? And I'm going to ask one more from the audience, and I'll give it to Sherina and Sterling. So, what's your hopes and fears biggest challenge / victory?
I think just recently I lost a bunch of whack ideas in my head. So
Come on,
let's go.
Yeah, I feel like that's.
Yeah, you gonna share? Are you gonna share it?
Yeah. This was like, I don't know, just going through it like everyone else does. I was just getting hit. And I was just like, damn, I suck. This shit sucks. What I do, all that shit, and like, just that, and then just kind of having a moment to get through that, go through that fire, collectively and individually, and like, I just lost those. I was like, yeah, what the fuck was I on just a second ago? All right.
No, I was okay. I thought you were gonna say like whack art ideas, but yeah, it is whack.
Just whack ideas. Yeah, like just destroying my brush, which is my hands, my eyes, my ears, like just destroying my art. Like I lost that. So, but I also gained like those, like just the mechanisms is just like, come on, man, like what you doing? You gotta create beauty. So I feel like I lost like those. I lost the what's it called, when something freezes or paralyzes something. I lost the paralyzation to those ideas. So I get them calm, and then I'll just slap some butter on it, and they'll slide the fuck on and get gone.
I need some of that butter.
Butter.
I need some of that butter in the studio, okay?
Cannabis butter.
We have another question from Natalie Stringer, who wants to know, what would it look like, or what do you feel it already looks like, for you as artists and culture workers and neighbors, for local civic leaders to be in the right relationship with the city and the land and Detroiters? So it sounds like, what is the relationship between cultural workers and civic leaders, considering Detroit's transitions? Unless I interpreted that wrong.
Yeah, I'm reading it too.
Yeah. Sure. Go ahead, sir.
I think everything is about sitting down and taking time to understand people, and I think sometimes we're moving so fast to try to get things done, thinking that the thing that we're going to get done is going to be better for everybody. But in all actuality, if that's coming at the expense of our relationships to one another, whatever it is that we ran so fast to achieve is not going to have the glue to stay together, because the glue is the relationship. And I think that, like, yeah, we're so busy running so fast, but I always think about the idea of like increasing our stride, like if we can live and function with each other in the way in which our relationships, the primary function of them is to expand ourselves in each other in communion, then I feel like we can take larger strides to where the thing that would have taken 1,000 steps to get done can take 4, because we've expanded our stride and stretching ourselves in the intimacy of the relationships that we have. And I think in a lot of ways, sometimes, and I understand because of the busyness or whatever, that, you know, we aren't always able to connect to a lot of local and civic leaders or whatever. But I think it's imperative for, you know, it to be a functioning component to give way to a level of compassion and empathy and understanding now that guides the action in terms of decisions that are made for the city. So I really feel like the only real solution to that is intimacy. You know, like actually creating space to be with people and be with the community, you know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. We only have a few more minutes left. Sherina, we started with you. We shall end with you. Okay. And I'm wondering what you're thinking about this question that Natalie poses.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie, for this question. I think Natalie's question and Yvette's question are not, they're like cousins in my mind. For me to be in right relationship with civic leaders would begin with an understanding of the beginning and that there's a wound. And I think in building intimacy, we have to look at the places where there were transgressions and there was a wound. And we have to be willing to sit with that wound and support the people who were wounded and help people be lovingly accountable for the places where they have wounded, for the people who have wounded to now give, and to learn to be in right relationship with radically giving and not giving out of pity, but giving from the place that like, I need to get back into my integrity. So giving to be in integrity, giving to be back in humanity, like back into integrity with humanity, and giving as a way of restoring what was looted. And for people who have been wounded to have the time and the space and the resources to go through a radical healing of what that violence has done to our bodies, what that violence has done to our neighborhoods, and to move out of a place of shame in any place where our neighborhoods, our bodies have been violated, knowing that is because someone looted, and that's not our shame to hold. But removing that and having like a serious, honest reclamation of the wounds so we can move forward. That's what I see.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming on and sharing your intimate thoughts with us here. I mean, I learn from each of you every time I speak with you, and it's just, I feel very inspired right now, and I'm sure the audience does as well. I hope you do as well, and that, you know, you feel like being in community with artists allows you to do the things that you need to do, because it's clear to me after this conversation that the artists were sort of the shamans, the priests, the nurses, the healers of the moments, and the doulas of the future. And if this is the group of people that hold the future, then I'm feeling inspired. So I want to thank you all very much for sharing. I just have to like close it out with this little plug here. So congratulations to all the Kresge Arts winners. It's a fun little grant to get. And Sherina and Chance will be a part of everything tonight. And so tonight is the celebration, so we want to congratulate those artists. And then this is Sidewalk Festival, so go to sidewalkfestival.com for more. And real quick, if you want to plug where people can find you in one sentence at the time, I am mothercyborg.com.
The-tetra.com.
And Sterling Sacramento, do you have any online stuff you want to share?
I don't have no social media, so
Just go get that record on Bandcamp.
I guarantee you, I'm not that hard to find because people find me all the damn time.
Just speak it to the western wind and be like Sterling Toles, and he'll just pull up on you.
Yeah.
It's happening.
And Knox, where can folks find you on the internet?
If they want to search for me, that's cool. But I'd like to uplift the Wawi Altanag Resurgence, which is led by Women in Two-Spirit movement in Detroit. So go support them right now and donate your dollars and your time and then just get involved somehow because it's time for land back. So land back and reparations. So.
Yeah.
Word. And thank you, Mother Cyborg. You're an amazing, moderator, but amazing artist as well.
Thank you. I feel loved. Thank you guys very much. I'm hoping we can all have this in my yard sometime because we'll be known with you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, and
love y'all.
Love y'all, man. Love you too.
And
man.
Ryan,
yeah. Something happens after this. Just keep going like this, everybody.
Okay.
Okay.